So imagine with me for just a second, the government taking over a third of your wages and then using it for programs you don't agree with. Can you imagine that? Needless to say, it was a heated topic and a sore subject for the Jews. And do you see the implications? If Jesus says now he's in agreement with this tax, his Jewish followers are going to hate him. If he disagrees with the tax, he is openly rejecting the Roman rule. And due to his popularity, this could be seen as inciting a rebellion against the government. The stakes are pretty high as they're cornering him here. What is Jesus going to say? Look at verse 23. But he perceived their craftiness and said to them, "Show me a denarius. Whose likeness and inscription does it have?" And they said, "Caesar's." Now, I love it here. Jesus perceived their craftiness. In fact, that's the same word, at least in the English, used by the serpent in Genesis 3, when he's tempting Adam and Eve. He's crafty. He's a crafty guy. Jesus knows what they're doing. He sees the politics of their heart. So he does a brilliant counter maneuver. He does not give them the answer they are looking for. Instead, he says, "Show me a coin. Let me see it." Now, the Roman currency, the Roman denarius, it looked like this. You can see right here. In the ancient world, coins, the currency, were used for political propaganda. This coin had the image of Tiberius Caesar along with the inscription, "Tiberius Caesar Augustus, son of the divine Augustus." That inscription was on the coin. In other words, the emperor was pretending to be the son of a god. And in fact, I can imagine Jesus taking this coin and looking at it and just smiling at the irony as he held it. This guy pretending to be the son of God. This coin was idolatrous. It proclaimed Roman imperialistic political ideology. Do you see why the Jews had a problem with it? And now Jesus' very famous response, is beyond brilliant. Verse 25. He said to them, "Then render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." Now, to say this is a mic drop moment is an understatement. In fact, I could picture Jesus just handing the coin back to these guys and then continuing on his way as the music swells and everybody's looking around in astonishment like, what just happened? Victory in debate number 2 goes to Jesus. Now, what did he do? Well, as he looks at this shiny coin with this pretend god on it, he essentially says, if Caesar wants his little coin, then he can have it. But he follows up by saying, give to God what is God's. And what does God own? Everything. Everything. So in essence, what Jesus told these spies in an indirect way was this: you should give your life to God. Give your life to God. Darrell Bock makes clear Jesus' point. He says, Jesus affirms that Caesar has a domain that should be served and that God has a sphere where he should be honored. Jesus' work for God does not challenge, but rather transcends Rome. Or put another way, we can give to Caesar the things that bear his image, but God should also get what bears his image, and that is humanity. Our whole lives. Which includes what? Our finances, our family, our careers, our schedule, everything. That's what Jesus is saying here. And what's the reaction? Verse 26. And they were not able in the presence of the people to catch him in what he said. But marveling at his answer, they became silent. Open-mouthed, marveling silence. It is clear they are waving the white flag. Jesus, you got me. I surrender. These political operatives thought for sure they were going to catch Jesus, but he just pushes them aside with ease and continues on his mission. He knows how to play the politics of the heart. And in these upside-down politics, Jesus turns money upside down. Now, before we move on, it may be helpful to offer a word on government, because some might ask, well, what exactly is Jesus saying about tax policy here? I would caution against drawing general applications about taxes from this passage because it is context specific. But the point here is that Jesus is responding in some way to these political operatives. That being said, I think there are a few principles that can be inferred. Number one, he calls us to pursue a God-first policy. Now, what is clear is Jesus is teaching our primary responsibility is to God. We bear God's image. God has given us dominion over the earth in his creation mandate of Genesis 1. Therefore, everything we do should be God-honoring. Our whole life belongs to him. Secondly, though, human government has a role, and there is no perfect government. In fact, the early Christians adopted a positive view of the role of government and assumed it owed its authority to God. So the apostles affirm in the Scriptures. They affirm this truth in the Scriptures. Paul writes to the Roman church, Romans 13:1, what does he say? Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. And those that exist have been instituted by God. So in his sovereignty, God rules the government, and Christians ought to be good citizens. Peter, the Apostle Peter, likewise encourages the Christians in Asia Minor to submit to their governing authorities. 1 Peter 2, be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor as supreme, or to governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil and praise those who do good. Honor everyone. Love the brotherhood. Fear God, honor the emperor. So governments, good governments, exist for the good of their citizens. They are put in place to restrict evil and forward the common good of all. Now, are there wicked governments? Yes. Are there times to resist? Yes. In fact, in Acts chapter 5, Peter and the apostles make this bold statement: we must obey God rather than men. And ultimately, our allegiance must be to our true king first. He owns everything. And any kind of resistance should be a last resort and done with great prayer and submissive to the Scriptures and discernment. Now again here, Jesus' point is context specific, but he is speaking to the politics of our heart. Will we allow him to rule our heart? Will we put God first in everything? Will we wave the white flag? Because if we do, it will turn our political approach upside down. And that